The fire never left. The fire at the Sodder house in Fayetteville, West Virginia, was supposed to have been the end. It destroyed everything, burning the house to the ground, leaving nothing but ash. 5 children, unaccounted for, had disappeared, vanishing without a trace. No bodies were ever found, and the authorities declared it an accident. But the family knew differently. The fire had been deliberate, and the children had never been found. Mary Sodder had spent years living with the unanswered questions, the nightmares, and the hope that her children were still alive. And then, one Halloween night, decades later, she received a phone call. "Your children are waiting," the voice on the other end said, cold and distant. There was a click, and the line went dead. The police couldn't trace the call, but Mary couldn't ignore it. Her mind raced back to that fateful night, December 24th, 1945, when she watched as the fire consumed everything. The flames had been so hot they'd melted the metal of the children's beds. But when the fire was over, no remains, no bones, no traces were left of her children. They should have found something. Her heart pounded as she clutched the phone tighter. The voice hadn't sounded human. It had been otherworldly. That night, Mary stood by her window, watching the thick, heavy fog roll in across the field. There was no one in sight, no movement, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Startled, Mary opened it. There was no one outside, just the cold wind rustling the dead leaves. But then a flash of movement caught her eye. A figure, just a shadow, darting across the yard. She blinked, and it was gone. The house was silent again, but the tension in the air was thick. Then a familiar voice, her son Joey, called out from the darkness. "Mom!" She froze. It was his voice, clear and young, but tinged with something wrong, something unnatural. "Joey?" she whispered, her voice shaking as she stepped outside. "Joey, is that you?" She reached out into the fog, the mist swallowing her as she walked. Her feet sank into the wet earth. The voice echoed again, distant. "Mom, help me. We need to go home." Mary's heart thudded painfully in her chest. This isn't real. It can't be real. But then, she heard it. Footsteps, soft but deliberate, coming from behind her. She spun around, but there was nothing there. Only the dark, swirling fog, the world muffled in a thick, suffocating silence. Then from the corner of her eye, a shadow moved. This time, it was too real. Her breath hitched as a figure emerged from the fog, just beyond the edge of the yard. A tall shape, thin and stretched, with long limbs that moved unnaturally. The figure was dressed in the tattered remains of what looked like children's clothes, soaked in smoke and ash, like they'd just emerged from the burning ruins of the house. "Joey?" she called, her voice trembling. The figure didn't answer, but it moved closer, each step dragging the earth beneath it. Its eyes, empty, hollow, were locked onto hers. "You left us," it whispered, the voice ragged, as if the words had been torn from something dead. "You left us to burn." Mary staggered back, her pulse racing. She stumbled over the uneven ground, but the figure followed. Its limbs stretched unnaturally long, its movements jerky, like it was struggling to hold its form together. "Mom, please, help us." Another voice, faint and broken, one she recognized as her daughter, Sylvia, joined in. But there was something off about it. The voice didn't sound like Sylvia, not completely. It was distorted, as though something had crawled into her body, wearing her voice as a mask. The fog thickened, pressing in around her. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The air was too heavy, the ground too soft under her feet. The figure reached out with its long, skeletal fingers. "Mom, the fire's still here. We never left." Suddenly, the world snapped into focus. The figure wasn't just a shape. It was a thing, something that had been bound by the fire that took her children. trapped in the wreckage of that night. The fire hadn't consumed them. It had changed them, keeping them tethered to this world, never allowing them to leave. Mary's legs gave out, her knees buckling beneath her. She sank to the ground, the cold earth pressing against her face. The shadow loomed above her, its form becoming clearer with each second, skin stretched tight over bones, eyes wide and staring, hollow like the well of death. The voice that had once been Joey whispered again, the words now clear. "Come with us. Come into the fire." And then it reached out to her. In that moment she understood. The fire hadn't been an accident. It had been a curse, a binding force that kept her children from ever leaving. They weren't dead. They were trapped, twisted into something else. The ground beneath her cracked, and the shadows surged forward, dragging her toward the place where the house once stood. But just as the darkness closed in, the world went quiet again. When the authorities arrived, Mary was found lying in the same spot, her body still warm, her face contorted in terror. The house was gone as it had been for decades, but the ground beneath it was untouched, eerily silent. There were no signs of fire, no signs of anything at all, but somewhere, deep in the earth, the fire still burned. But in the days that followed, several local farmers reported seeing strange, flickering lights on the old Sodder property. The lights appeared on Halloween night, shining like tiny flames in the distance, as if something, or someone, was still waiting to come home. Was it the fire that took them or something far darker?